Hi and welcome back. In today's video, we're going to be talking about Chapter 7 bankruptcies and cover the basics around that. So let's get started. What is a Chapter 7 bankruptcy? So a Chapter 7 bankruptcy is a legal proceeding in which it is often known as the liquidation bankruptcy because in this case, you will create a list of assets and the ones that aren't federally or state exempt are then eligible to be liquidated, which means sold, in order to settle your debts. And any debts that do not get paid off from that selling of your assets will then be discharged, meaning that you are no longer financially responsible for the debt. In most cases, when I ask somebody what they think a bankruptcy is, this is the one that they think of, and there are a couple of other types. So if you are interested in learning about the 6 different types generally, then check out this video. So what is the basic procedure around a Chapter 7 bankruptcy? So aside from finding a bankruptcy lawyer and then creating your list of assets and liabilities, your debt totals, etc., once you do all of that, then you go and you file a petition to the court. This petition goes to the bankruptcy court and it lists your debt, your income, and your assets. The important part to note is that when you file for bankruptcy, this automatically starts what is called an automatic stay, meaning that the creditors who have been going after you to pay your debt have to no longer do that because you are now in a legal proceeding in order to figure it out. So you may get phone calls, you may get mailings, so letters in the mail, and you just have to respond that you are currently in the throes of a bankruptcy proceeding, and then they will contact your lawyers and go that route. Following the petition, then there is called the meeting of creditors, which is where your creditors go and put in the amounts of money that you owe them, and then there is a plan built to see what they are willing to settle for, as well as create the list of priorities of what debts are going to be paid first and then what debts are more likely to not get paid and therefore be discharged. So then a trustee is then appointed, which is the person who is responsible for liquidating those assets and then distributing the money, again based off of the priority list. Once the plan is made and a trustee is found, then the plan goes towards the court, and the court then has to agree that the plan and the assets being sold, etc., do fit in line, so that way you are again not being told to liquidate assets that you don't have to, and that the list or the way that they are going to be paying the creditors is fair to the creditors to the amount of your estate that is eligible for liquidation. So when that happens, the trustee, which is again appointed by the court, this is called the liquidation process because they are liquidating those assets, which is again just selling the assets. And once that is all taken care of and there are no more assets to sell, whatever debts that were a part of this that did not get paid off are then discharged. And again, discharge means that you are not legally financially responsible to cover those debts. So discharge means kind of like wiped out. What is the eligibility for a Chapter 7? Well, technically there's not like an income limits, but there is what is called a means test, and that looks at your income, your assets, and the amount of debt that you have. In general, if your income based off of your family size is below poverty lines or the median lines for your states, then generally you are approved for this type of bankruptcy. And for businesses, there are also a type of means test that can be done. What are the benefits for filing a Chapter 7 bankruptcy? Well, the first one is debt relief. It eliminates most unsecured debts. So in that case, it would be medical bills, credit cards, some personal loans, and in some cases, a tax liability. It stops creditor harassment. So because of that automatic stay when you file, it prevents people from harassing you via phone calls, text messages, in some cases, mailers, etc. So you get a little bit more breathing room and sense of that you don't have to deal with that while these proceedings are occurring. Fairly quick process. So it takes about 6 months from file to close. Generally, there are cases where it's faster and there are cases where it takes a little bit longer. It just kind of depends on the assets and your personal circumstances. But because it takes a short amount of time, this can actually alleviate a lot more stress than someone who continues being in the hole for years and years because they are afraid to file a bankruptcy. The last benefit is that you get a fresh start, meaning that because it takes a shorter amount of time, you will technically on a faster track be able to rebuild your financial credit and picture, just because you are kind of nipping it at the butt depending on when you do it, and so you don't necessarily get further down the hole. It's a fresh start, so you start again at zero because those unsecured debts get discharged, meaning you no longer have to pay them. What are some of the cons for filing a Chapter 7 bankruptcy? Well, the first is the loss of non-exempt assets. So things that are not protected either federally or at a state exemption level are up for grabs to be liquidated, and so in most cases they generally are liquidated, so you will lose things. But again, it kind of depends on your situation and your state at the time. Impact on a credit score. So a Chapter 7, well, any bankruptcy in general, will negatively affect your credit score, and so that is something to consider. It will also generally make it harder for you to get loans or credit card approvals, etc. But that's only for a couple of years, and then once you rebuild and show that you are being consistent, then you can essentially go from filing bankruptcy to going all the way up to a greater than 800 credit score. I've seen it done and it is a possibility. Lastly, the other con is that it's not suitable for all debts. Again, it is more so for unsecured debts, but there are some debts that cannot be touched through the bankruptcy process. In this case, it could be back owed child support, back owed alimony, it could be your student loans, and there are some tax liabilities that cannot be discharged through the means of a bankruptcy. What are some alternatives to filing a Chapter 7 bankruptcy? Well, the first is credit counseling. Credit counseling and credit counselors are potentially able to help create a plan to help you get out of debt and therefore eliminate the need for going down the bankruptcy route. Another option is debt consolidation, and if you need information about that, check out this video. But in general, it is taking multiple loans and then combining it into one loan. And lastly, there are other bankruptcy options out there. So instead of a Chapter 7, which is a liquidation one, there is a Chapter 13, which allows you to go into a debt repayment plan, and that takes about 3 to 5 years to accomplish. If you want more information about a Chapter 13, check out this video. So what do you need to know before filing for bankruptcy? The number one thing is that you speak to a bankruptcy attorney in order to see if the bankruptcy route is your best choice. So you need to understand your alternative options if you have any, but also you need to know that it is a legal proceeding and therefore an attorney is necessary to help you out. A bankruptcy is a legal process, and so there are a lot of legal ramifications that are potentially tied to filing for bankruptcy and exemptions, etc., and it's a complex matter. Therefore, you should have an expert in that case help you out. Once again, let me remind you that the information I just gave you is general and it does not apply to your specific situation, as well as the fact that there are exemptions that differ across different states, and so I cannot help you in that sense. Please contact a bankruptcy attorney. So yeah, that's the basics around Chapter 7 bankruptcies. I hope you found this video helpful. Please give it a like and share it with a friend. For those of you who are current subscribers, thank you so much for tuning in again. I really appreciate it. And for those of you who are new, I hope you consider subscribing. This channel covers personal finance topics where I try to break them down and cover general information in regards to them. And I also go over my personal debt story. So if that interests you, please consider subscribing. If you have any questions or you just want to say hi, drop it down in the comments below because I am the only one that is responding. So if I respond, it's actually me. And until the next one, I'll see you. Bye!